All right, thanks for tuning in to another edition of the OFN Meeting Room as we talk Atlanta Falcons football. Before we do that, though, I want to remind everybody to order the Our Lads Draft Guide. Now is a great time to do it because if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan especially, we're going to be talking about each and every pick, which all those profiles are in this guide. And we also have a top free agent in this guide that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. So the Our Lads Draft Guide at ourlads.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk Atlanta Falcons football. I'm going to welcome in now Kevin Knight, editor and writer for thefalcoholic.com at SB Nation. Kevin, nice talking to you again.
Yes, nice to talk to you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great to have you on. And you guys do a great job covering the Falcons, marketing the Falcons, the social media. And this is a time I think fans are just dying for some sort of distraction. The draft is now starting to get more in a rearview mirror, which isn't a good thing. But there's still a little bit to talk about like this. I mean, there's still a lot of information for fans, whether it's, I think, what did Atlanta have, 20 free agents they signed, rookie free agents? That's a lot of free agents to sign. And maybe not a surprise considering they only had, a 6-man draft class?
Yeah, that's part of it. You know, they didn't have a ton of ammunition. Initially, we thought they might have even less ammunition in the draft because of all the trade-up rumors that were going around. They didn't end up doing that, obviously. But, yeah, this is a team that is generally pretty competitive in terms of getting UDFAs on the roster. So we'll see if any of those guys make an impact. I know there's a few that we talked about before the show that I like, and I'm sure we'll get to those at some point as well.
Well, we did the draft preview a week or two before the draft, and I think I mentioned on the show that I'm responsible for a certain number of team profiles in the draft guide, and one of the teams I was responsible for was Atlanta, and the combination of what we talked about on the show and what I was able to write up here at the draft guide, man, did we nail it. That's all I can say, because let's start with what we knew would be Atlanta's top need, and that was a defensive back, specifically a cornerback. So they went out and settled there, didn't trade up like you said, but they went ahead and decided to go after A.J. Terrell from Clemson. So how close do you think they were to moving up? And if they did move up, was it in the intention of possibly going after a C.J. Henderson, or if Okudah had slipped or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they would be targeting any number of players. I mean, C.J. Henderson was certainly a favorite. There were rumbles of Isaiah Simmons as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously Jeffrey Okudah would have been nice if he had fallen further, but with him not getting past 3, that wasn't really going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a team that is willing to be aggressive, but I think holding on to their day 2 picks was something that they wanted to do, if at all possible, at least the second rounder, because those 2 picks were key to what they wanted to do. But in terms of trade up targets, I think it was probably C.J. Henderson or Javon Kinlaw. Those were probably the 2 guys they were realistically hoping might be there, like in the early teens.
Okay.
And it seemed like one of the trade partners I thought for Kinlaw could have been San Francisco, but if San Francisco wanted to take Kinlaw, which it seems like they did, that wasn't going to work out. And then the other one maybe would have been Las Vegas at 12. But with them having, a wide receiver that they really wanted in Ruggs there, that also seems like maybe the Raiders just weren't interested in trading down. It seems like that maybe the trade up into the top 10 might have been a little bit more smoke than they were letting on because of, like I said, they wanted to hold on to those day 2 picks if possible.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the team had 15 draft picks going into the draft. No. I was surprised myself when I heard that they were potentially thinking of moving up, because it just felt like, if anything, I would have thought they probably would have moved down to try to get some more draft picks. But how does Terrell fit with this secondary? Because we talked about how the defensive backfield, the pass defense in general, changed in the second half of the season with Raheem Morris moving over. So how does Terrell fit in with these DBs in this defense?
Yeah, so he'll be starting on the outside opposite Isaiah Oliver, second-year player Kendall Sheffield, who was probably the biggest bright spot of all the players in the secondary last year. He's going to play the slot, and he was very good there. as a rookie. So the hope is that he can continue to grow. The hope is obviously that Isaiah Oliver will kind of build on his stronger second half of the season and be a capable outside starter. And then Terrell is going to be relied upon as the other outside starter. The Falcons have kind of been stubborn in implementing the Seattle system where they play sides, not matchups, which I think is a little antiquated. I think they probably need to ditch that. But for now, it's probably going to be Terrell on one side, Oliver on the other, and that's how they're going to line up.
Okay.
I mean, Terrell obviously has the size to match up with bigger corners. He's got the long speed. He's got the athleticism. He can really match up with anyone. Whereas I think Isaiah Oliver is more of a specific big receiver matchup option. I mean, he has 98th percentile length in terms of his arm length and size. So he's your guy that you would want to put on like the Mike Evanses and Michael Thomases, the big receivers. Terrell can definitely cover those guys, but he's probably going to be much more effective than Oliver at covering the shiftier, the faster receivers.
Okay.
He has better lateral mobility. So I think the two of them together, if they do play more matchups, I think can be really good. But either way, I think Terrell is probably a little more versatile in terms of the wide receivers he can match up with.
All right. And, since we talked about the primary need being the secondary, might as well talk about the other secondary pick in the draft. That was the second, fourth round choice, Jalen Hawkins out of Cal. Tall, versatile safety, pretty good ball skills. Can make an impact, with the hit. So, but this was a player our lads felt could have lasted a little bit longer. They had him down as a 7th round grade. What did the Falcons specifically see in Hawkins that made them take him in the 4th round?
Well, I think the Falcons are one of those teams that's willing to gamble on upside more than some others. Hawkins, they do love versatility in the secondary. They love big hitters. They love the attitude to the character and the football IQ and that sort of thing is important to them. So my guess is that they fell in love with his character. They liked his athletic ability enough. And they liked his big hitting, and they think that they can basically figure out the rest. I mean, that's kind of what they did with Keanu Neal, who was basically entirely unproven in coverage. They said, we like everything about this guy. We can teach him to cover. And they did. So, if the Falcons can develop any position, it's secondary players. So I think they love his size, his athletic ability, his physicality, and they think they can kind of fill in the rest of the blanks. But Hawkins is a guy I think is actually a little bit better in coverage than people give him credit for. I think they're going to put him in the box, and I think they're going to make him Keanu Neal's primary backup, who hopefully won't have to see the field much this year. Hopefully Neal can stay healthy, but that has been something that has been an issue the last 2 seasons is when they've lost Keanu Neal, it's been a disaster at strong safety. So I think they're hoping that Hawkins can come in and provide, a solid starter presence, not necessarily expecting big things from him, but just kind of a stabilizing presence in the secondary, someone that can come up in the box and cover there and also lay some big hits if needed. So,
okay.
I like his fit there. I think he'll be fine in that role. They don't necessarily ask a ton from that box safety in terms of like range and stuff like that. So I think they're going to accentuate Hawkins' strengths and kind of play down his weaknesses a little bit.
All right, now let's talk about round number 2, their second pick, Marlin Davidson from Auburn. And again, one of the top needs that we discussed in the draft preview. 4-year starter, bit of a tweener though, but another versatile player and a player that really is one of those typical big men up front that will do the dirty work and leave and try to leave it up to his teammates to get all the glory. But this is kind of a localish kind of player from Auburn, from the Southeastern Conference. What do the Falcons specifically like about Marlin Davidson?
Yeah, the Falcons have made it clear over the last several years that they're targeting the tweeners. They're targeting the inside-outside guys, the guys that can play both defensive end, edge in the base, and then also defensive tackle in the nickel and can move all around the defensive line. They've got a bunch of those guys on the roster. They've kind of bulked up Takk McKinley a little bit so he could play that role. They drafted John Kaminsky last year, who was a big edge defender. and he's going to be playing an inside-outside role this year. They signed Alan Bailey, the 3-4 defensive end from Kansas City last offseason. He's the exact same type of player, and now they've added Marlin Davidson. So it seems like they're just interested in stacking the roster with these inside-outside flexible guys. So I think Davidson's basically going to have the same role as players like Alan Bailey and John Kaminsky. He's probably going to be the starter in the nickel packages as the primary pass rusher next to Grady Jarrett on the inside. The Falcons like to line up in a lot of 2-3 tech looks, so they'll have kind of a wide look, and then they'll blitz the A gap sometimes as well. So I think that Davidson will get to play next to Jarrett in that nickel set, and he'll also probably play some strong side defensive end 5 tech type stuff in the base defense. But they're probably going to try to keep him fresh, especially as a rookie, to just line up as a pass rusher and try to push the pocket in the middle. But I mean, if they have injuries at edge, I mean, they're going to line him up at edge and let him try to get success there as well. He played edge surprisingly well for someone who's 300 pounds. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past him to be able to produce there, but I think the plan right now is to use his strengths, which are his explosiveness and his strength, to just let him shoot a gap from 3 tech and just create some penetration and disruption in the backfield.
Well, taking a little bit out of the profile on the guide, Arled's says he's versatile, country strong, with long arms and heavy hands, consistent force between the tackles, and a nose for the ball. All right, let's talk about the other defender before we move on over to the one offensive player and the one special teams player. But Matt Hennessy, the Falcons, I would have thought that they would have been very happy when Hennessy was still on the board at this point. I know the Jets were picking right after them, and I thought the Jets would have been a potential landing spot for Hennessy as well. But the Falcons grabbed Hennessy in the 3rd round, a 3-year starter, a 2-time team captain, very tough kid. This is the type of player. When you take centers in the first 2 or 3 rounds, more often than not, you're taking guys that you believe will be a starter on your team for a long time. And Hennessy has that ability. If he just maybe builds himself up a little bit stronger, he's got the ability to be not only a long-time starter in this league, but a really good one as well. And we specifically talked about the possibility of the Falcons grabbing Alex Mack's eventual replacement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what this pick is. And, there's so many reasons that it makes sense to grab a center this year, even if he's not likely to see the field, because, getting a player on your roster that can learn behind such a legendary player like Alex Mack, who can kind of pass on his knowledge and experience about how to just lead an offensive line and all those things. You can't teach that necessarily. Like, you need to be mentored in these things. You need a strong presence to help you with that. And Hennessy's already a great leader. I mean, we know his personality, honestly, and his character were probably what got him drafted over Lloyd Cushenberry, who I believe most folks had rated as a better overall center prospect for his tape. But Hennessy's attitude. Yeah, I know there was definitely. I mean, it was center 2 or 3, right?
No, that's okay. No, you're right. No, you are right though. So I was hearing his name a lot the days leading up to the draft, and I was saying, wow, that name sure seems to be moving up the charts.
Yeah, and it depends on what you want too, right? Because Hennessy's a better athlete, but Cushenberry's got a little bit more bulk to him. Cushenberry probably a little bit more versatile in terms of can you play guard or not, but. The Falcons had been rumored to have been all in on Hennessy after the Senior Bowl. Every year it seems like they get a player that they really love from the Senior Bowl, and they make sure to target them. But I mean, again, like, we weren't expecting Hennessy to be around in the 3rd. I mean, I thought that they'd have to take him with their 2nd rounder if they wanted him, and it seemed like the centers just fell. But yeah, I mean, I think Hennessy's going to be the long-term answer at center. Dan Quinn has said he's going to compete for left guard, so we'll see. I mean, the Falcons have a lot of high-priced veterans that were very disappointing at left guard. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Hennessy to win that job because pass protection is the most important thing, and Hennessy's a great pass protector. So, if he can prove that he's a more reliable pass protector than Jamon Brown or James Carpenter, then he'll probably get the job because Dirk Cutter is going to call 70% pass plays. So if they want to run, they'll just run behind Chris Lindstrom on the right, and that's fine. But Yeah, I like him a lot. And yeah, like you said, with the Jets actually had a trade in place with the Broncos, who apparently wanted to come up and select Hennessy the pick after Atlanta. And that trade was called off because obviously the Falcons took him.
Oh,
So we had heard that. I think last week there was buzz about that. And then the Broncos obviously ended up taking Cushenberry, who they'll probably be pretty happy with too. But
interesting.
that, again, is another example of a team valuing Hennessy over Cushenberry. So it's just interesting.
Well, Hennessy actually was just a few points shy of being Arlad's top-rated center. So that's how much they Arlad's graded Hennessy overall. Ruiz was the top guy, but Hennessy was a strong number 2. Taking another excerpt from his profile: tough, smart, reliable, hard-working, well-balanced machine who's rarely out of position. Okay, now offense. And that, well, we did offense. I mean, let's go to the final player on the board, which is the special teams player, Sterling HOF Richter, the punter from Syracuse, who was 5th in the nation last year in net punting average. HOF Richter was a 4-time Ray Guy nominee, and he was a finalist last year. He was a final 3 punters to receive the award as the nation's top punter. First team All-ACC the last 2 years. He also handled kickoffs the last 2 years. He's kicked field goals in college. So I get the feeling, even though he was a 7th-round draft pick, that he's got a good chance to make this team.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons have a veteran in Ryan Allen that they added midseason after Matt Bosher's injury. And Ryan Allen was fine. I mean, he played well. But it seemed, no matter what, the Falcons always seemed like they just didn't like Allen for some reason. Like he was playing fine, and then they would cut him and bring in another punter, and that other punter, would get hurt or whatever, and then Ryan Allen would come back. So it seems like for whatever reason they've been trying to kind of move on from Ryan Allen. They're just not. I mean, he's older, so they're probably looking for youth at the position, someone they can keep around for a long time, and that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I mean, HOF Richter's a guy that I saw play at Syracuse because I live in Syracuse. I mean, he was a cool guy. I always thought he was a good punter, but like I didn't really see the Falcons like going after a punter or scouting punters. Maybe if I'd gotten to go to the pro day, I mean, I was supposed to, but obviously all pro days got canceled. I would have gotten a little nugget there and seen them talking to the punter. But yeah, he's a good player. I think he's probably the favorite to win the job just because of the draft investment. And like I said, the fact that they don't seem to like Ryan Allen very much. His ability to kick field goals in a pinch, that's always a plus. You never know when random kicking injuries can strike, and you want to be able to have that in your back pocket just in case. He hit a 52-yarder in college. He was 3 or 4. So he's definitely someone that can probably hit field goals without, it's not like, oh, we're going to have the, holder attempt to kick a field goal here.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, he's a good player. He's good at kickoffs too.
Another versatile player.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the Falcons' calling card, man. I'm telling you, they love that versatility.
That's it.
Yeah, he's a good
especially
player.
When you only have 6 picks.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And his hand also makes the Vulcan salute whenever he punts. It's apparently the Vulcan salute from Star Trek.
Okay.
It's apparently involuntary, is what I read. But if you watch him closely, you'll always see that he does that when he punts the ball. So it's fun.
That's coming to Atlanta.
Yep.
All right. Now, there are a couple of free agents that out of the 20 that stick out the most. One in the guide, tight end Jared Pinkney, because Pinkney actually was rated as one of the top free agents available in the guide who wasn't chosen because he had a 4th-round grade in the draft guide. So the fact that he was available especially for a team that only had 6 picks, it's almost like having a 7th pick in reality for the Falcons. 4-year starter, better 2018 than last year. That's because they had a big quarterback drop off. Not going to give you anything in the blocking game, but you could say that about 90% of the tight ends that come out nowadays. But he's a talent. He has outstanding concentration and coordination for the position. There's a lot to like about him. He's not going to be, again, the reason he lasted is he's not going to be one of these dynamic playmakers, but a good tight end in the passing game to have, and somebody that I'd be surprised didn't make the team.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a position that you could come on the team for and make the roster without too much trouble, it was going to be tight end because there's just not a lot there in terms of veterans to beat out. The Falcons, they lost Austin Hooper in free agency. They did trade for Hayden Hurst to replace him, but it's Jaden Graham, who's probably the tight end 2, who the team seems to like a lot. And then, a bunch of guys that they added. So Pinkney is like a shoo-in for the roster unless he gets really badly beaten out. But like you said, I mean, I think he's a better receiver than he gets credit for. His 2019 tape, not really his fault. Not dynamic, but a red zone type of weapon, someone who's got size and very reliable hands. I mean, he's just a guy who has like he can be that tight end 2, tight end 3 that kind of sticks on your roster for like 8 years, and then you forget he's there because he's just so reliable. But he's someone there. If he's got a couple of things he needs to clean up with his blocking, but I think he can be a good blocker eventually. He's definitely got the size for it. So I think he's got a great chance to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't really have to beat out a lot of guys to be that 4th tight end. And
sure.
The Falcons under Dirk Cutter generally keep 4 tight ends, so he's got an even better chance because of that.
All right, and then there was another player that you specifically liked, a kid from Tennessee State who will probably have to make his way early as a kick returner.
Yeah, Chris Roland. He was famous for a variety of reasons. I know one of our writers at the Falcoholic did a write-up on him, Corey Woodruff, that I guess he broke Jerry Rice's record, the either receptions or yardage record for the FCS. So that was kind of a big deal
for his career.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Or either career or this final season, but it was some record related to Jerry Rice. I won't try to make out exactly what it was, but it was some big deal. He's a somewhat small slot receiver type. Very explosive, has a lot of mobility, very, very savvy with the ball in his hands as a run after catch threat. And he was a great returner too. So the Falcons don't really have any established returners on the roster. The guy that Quinn said was their returner going into the offseason is Brandon Powell, who has like 3 career returns to his name. They did not bring back Kenyon Barner, who was their returner last year. It was pretty good. So Roland has a very easy chance to be the returner if he can beat out Brandon Powell. And they gave him a big signing bonus too. I think it was like a $75,000 signing bonus, which was most of their UDFA pool money. So they clearly like him. They clearly see something in him. And I think that he's one of those diamond in the rough type players who always just gets lost in the shuffle, on day 3. There's so many good receivers in this class. You just can't,
you cannot have one of them.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens there. I think, his path to actual receiving reps is probably pretty dicey this year, but as a returner, he has a chance to definitely make a name for himself.
All right, Kevin. So what's going on between now and camp? What are you doing yourself to update the fans at the Falcoholic.com website?
Oh, before we get into that, we should probably talk about Michael Walker, right? The other 4th round pick.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about Michael Walker. Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I feel like that we're missing somebody.
Why did I do that? I have no idea. Let's talk about Michael Walker. Thank you very much for.
Oh no,
I don't know where that happened. Anyway, Michael Walker, who actually early in his career was a Division II transfer, but that was real early. I think back in 2017. Here we go with that word again. Versatile player. Can play outside, can play inside, has more experience outside though. So the inside position's a little new to him. But again, you're talking about a player that will offer versatility, a little bit of edge rush skills as well to the team. How do you see him fitting in with the Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, his scouting report reads like a lot like Devondre Campbell's scouting report did coming out of college. He's that same type of versatile, big, athletic linebacker. Michael Walker's a little bit more experienced in terms of what he was doing. Campbell was kind of a ball of clay coming out, but he's someone who can back up all of the linebacker spots. He's probably going to be the starter at the Sam spot where he's going to, come down close to the line of scrimmage. He can blitz, he can cover tight ends and that sort of thing. So I think that's his path to playing time right now. Like you said, the versatility is big for the Falcons, who don't really have a lot of established talent in the linebacking core outside of Deion Jones. So, they're going to try to get him on the field early and see what he can do. It worked out pretty well for them with Devondre Campbell, so I think they're feeling like they have a good linebackers coach. They feel like they can coach him up and get him ready to play. And he doesn't really have a lot of people to beat. I mean,
no.
Foyesade Oluokun probably going to be the will guy, just because he has all the experience and he's been fairly solid when he's played. But yeah, in terms of anybody else, I mean, they've got like Leroy Reynolds, who's the special teams guy, and then Edmund Robinson from the XFL, and then some other undrafted guys. So there's really not a lot that he has to beat out in terms of getting a start at Sam. So I think that's where he's gonna play early.
And the Falcons, they don't really use 3 tight ends an awful lot, do they? It's primarily mostly tight ends, linebackers. There's primarily 2 linebackers, and the third linebacker plays a certain percentage. How does that? What specific? If they had a specific base that they run more often than not, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean they run the 4-2-5 a lot,
Okay.
Which is this the nickel package for most teams. They want to get pressure with 4 down linemen. That's when they are most effective, is if they can just rush 4 and pressure. That's how they won in 2016. But they've struggled to do that the last several years because their pass rush has been bad. So the hope is that they can get back to that this year. They obviously Deion Jones, one of the best young linebackers in the league. He's going to be playing on every formation. And next to him is probably going to be, Foyesade Oluokun, who was a 6th-round pick a few years back. And he's been a solid starter when he's played. So, they're fine with him. Michael Walker might challenge for reps in certain situations. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, they're going to run 2 linebackers and have their nickel guys out there. Kendall Sheffield is one of their better secondary players. They love their safety group with DeMonte Casey, Ricardo Allen, and Keanu Neal. So they're probably going to throw some 3 safety looks in there too from time to time. So yeah, I think, outside of corner, second, like their safety group is really strong. Their slot corner is really strong in Kendall Sheffield. So the linebackers, they've got their big starter in Deion Jones, who's the Mike. So I mean, we could even see 1 linebacker as a thing this year with more 3 safety looks. It just depends on who they're playing against.
And I would think that with Walker, his talent, by 2021, he'll end up with probably the 2nd most reps in the linebacker position. Would you agree with that? That's a strong possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all because the Falcons do seem to have the preference for that like bigger will linebacker like Devondre Campbell played. Yeah, so it wouldn't shock me. So if he plays well this year and like they don't invest highly in linebacker in 2021, yeah, I mean it would not shock me at all to see him as the linebacker who's starting most of the time next to Deion Jones.
Okay, all right. Well, that's it. That's right. I didn't miss anybody else, did I?
No. I think we got to break down the other 18 undrafted.
No, we don't. No, we don't have to do that. All right. So again, getting back to my final question, what do you, for Falcons fans out there that want to know how often they should check back with the website, what do you provide for them, whether it's you specifically or the website in general at this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, at thefalcoholic.com, we're going to have, at least 3 articles a day coming out on a variety of topics. Some of them are, it's off season, so some of them are silly, some of them are trivia, some of them are, news related stuff. I'll be doing my live show, which is the Falcoholic Live. That's every other Wednesday at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. That'll actually be this coming Wednesday. So that will be a new show, and that's another way to get caught up on Falcons stuff. Every so often, I'll do roster projections. Usually I do one at OTAs and then when training camp starts and then after every preseason game. So, if those things happen, I'll be doing that. Otherwise, I'll probably just pick an arbitrary time to make a new roster projection. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be, roster previews and camp battle breakdowns and all that sort of stuff. And there's content coming out, multiple times a day, every day at thefalcoholic.com. So
and the podcast is every other week?
Yeah. That's the live show. That's on YouTube. And then there is a podcast as well that's done by some of my coworkers. DW does that, and I think he's doing that every other week right now too. So,
what's the name of the YouTube podcast again?
It's called The Falcoholic Live.
Oh, that's easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy.
All right. Well, great job as always, Kevin. And I thank you very much for taking your time to talk to us again today, this time about the draft as recap. And when we talk to you again, it'll be as we look towards the 2020 season. Yes, finally.
Yes.
And so far, so good from what we're hearing. So hopefully we'll get some even more positive news in the coming days and weeks. And Can't wait to talk to you again because that means we're getting closer to the 2020 season, Kevin. So thanks once again, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Yes, thank you.